I don't want to make people think that it's all, sunshine and roses when you do a financial plan, because in life, there are always trade-offs. Very rarely do we get to have every single thing that we want, and we get to have everything be the way that we want it to be. There's going to be trade-offs at some point in time. So if we did have a reduction in Social Security, what's our trade-off? What are the things that are most important to us versus the things that are important but not as important as something else? Well, we may have to go without that.
Absolutely. And I think that, once again, it's retirement can be in stages too. Your first 5 or 10 years, those are the go-go years.
That's when you're healthy. That's when you feel good. That's when you want to travel. You want to do all the different things you want to do.
Then you have that next period of more of the slow-go years. It's maybe one spouse isn't quite as healthy. You've done some traveling, and you're not moving as much.
And then you get into the health phase.
Then the no-go years.
Yeah.
Right? So I think, too, that, having those conversations with the financial planner of, hey, we are going to front load retirement. How many times have you and I done that?
All the time, because it's like, okay, and people have to relate. Think about when your parents were early on in retirement. They were in their early to mid 60s, then they got into their late 70s, and then they got into their mid to late 80s. Did they spend the same way? Did they do the same things? And people inevitably say, well, no, they're not healthy enough. Well, then build your plan in stages. Build your plan that gives you additional spending in that first 10, maybe 15 years of retirement, depending on what your health is and the longevity and your family history and all that. Then go into a phase of what you called your slow-go years. I like the way that you did that. And what are we going to spend then? And then we can go to your no-go years, and what are we going to spend then? And you can model the plan out that way. And it doesn't mean that you set the plan up one time and, that's my plan for the next 30 years. It's going to change. And that's the beautiful thing about having a real financial plan that's living, breathing, reviewed on a regular basis with the certified financial planner, with the CPA. It allows that individual to customize and continue to make adjustments to that plan as they move forward.
But you can't do what you just did without looking at where you're spending the money. And why is that important? Because let's say that we front load retirement. Let's say we're going to live off $150,000 a year net.
Okay.
And for the first 10 years, you're spending $40,000 on travel. You break that out separate. You break your health care out separate.
Correct.
Because you can't just say, well, we're going to spend $150 and then we're going to spend $110. Right? You need to understand what you're spending money on. I can't stand when I see financial plans and it's just one number.
Right. Well, that's that. And Logan, a lot of times where people get confused is because they don't really think about why it's important to go in and break those things down. And a lot of those online financial planning tools, they don't even allow you to adjust that year by year, let alone break it out by individual budget items. And that, I think, one of the great things about working with a certified financial planner and using the professional financial planning software that's developed in order to help people provide that clarity, confidence, and control in their overall plan.
You have to have it, because if you don't, you're guessing, and you can't spreadsheet financial plan.
No, you certainly can't.
And to that point about inflation, we haven't even talked about it. We haven't even talked about the most uncertain thing of maybe 2022, but it's breaking out living expenses that the basket of goods at the grocery store for the next 30 years are going to inflate differently than healthcare.
Yep.
College.
Right. Electronics or whatever. It's all going to be different, and you have to do as good a job as you possibly can at breaking down where you're spending money, and then you have to apply what we would call reasonable inflation rates to each one of those budget items.
Right?
Yeah. Well, I don't know how many times you've seen it. I quit counting the number of times where people have come in and they say, well, I've got a plan. Okay, well, you have access to it online. Is that printed? What is it?
My Excel.
And they'll have a 2% inflation rate built in on flat dollar amount through their entire retirement. Well, you can't do that. That's not accurate.
With an average return, too.
Right.
Right?
Right.
How many times do you actually hit that average return? Once in 30 years?
Yeah, maybe.
If you're lucky.
Right. Right. So. It's going to fall somewhere north or south of it. Point is that during times of uncertainty, those people who have the well thought out plan and the relationship with the certified financial planner working with the CPA, they don't have the uncertainty. Yeah, we've got uncertain times right now where we're uncertain about what inflation is going to do. We're uncertain about the economy. We're uncertain about our political environment, definitely uncertain about geopolitical environment, uncertain about inflation. But you know what? The people that have the plan, they're not uncertain because they know that their plan has been stress tested for all those different things. So you know what they get to do? They get to live their life. They get to continue to do the things that are important to them for the reasons that are important to
It's the
them.
best compliment you can get. When you call a client and say, hey, just checking in, making sure everything's good, a lot going on. I don't look at it. That's what you're there for.
Yeah. No, that's exactly right.
Starting your route to retirement.